Good evening, boys and girls. It's Hump Day. Happy Hump Day to each and every one of you. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. You know the rules. Please stand clear of the closing doors. The next stop is indeed Highbury Squad, and we have a treat for you tonight. Podcast royalty in the house. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live edition of the show. Joining me this evening is Mr. Tom Canton, the founder and presenter of Gooner TalkTV, and I'm going to let him tell us about his new gig. Tom, welcome to the show, Kevin Campbell style. Oh.
How we doing? Yeah, good. It's been a crazy first day of a new job. So yeah.
Give us a little, some of our listeners may not know, but you started a new gig and it's with Reach, but in association with Football London. What's the scoop?
Yeah, so I'm there. Basically, it's a new concept project that's starting over at Reach. They've created this fan brands project, and there's a massive team of lots of different clubs: Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, for all of Reach's kind of different outlets. And I'm on the Arsenal team as one of their brand writers and presenters, along with some people that people may know, like Chris Davison. People follow him on Twitter, I'm sure, and some really other great people that are joining up too. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. First day was a bit crazy, kind of learning the ropes of publishing and stuff like that. It's very different from what I've been used to at 101. So it's a very different kind of gig. So it's that's been crazy. And then tomorrow I'm going to be at the Emirates doing some stuff. So
nice.
Yeah,
very
it's already
nice.
going mad. So yeah.
Nice. Well, we like that. And we wish you all the best, and well done on all the content that you've brought to everybody.
Thanks.
This summer. And please do, if you love Tom's content, go ahead and vote for him for the Football Content Awards. All you have to do is tweet what we have below in our ticker, but be sure to put in a vote for Tom as well. He's been doing some phenomenal work this summer.
Thanks. I think the voting might be closed now.
Is it?
I think it closed on the 8th. Yeah, I think it closed on the 8th. So they reveal the final nominees on the 23rd, I think.
Well, don't go vote and just appreciate Tom's show and go to Gooner Talk over on YouTube and watch that. All right, Tom. So I have a bit of a different show this evening. A lot of the times when you come on, you've got such good intel on transfers, and I'm sure there's going to be a 5-minute section where we try and fire as many quick fire questions at you on that.
Thing.
But I wanted to do something different because the sky seems to be falling even before a ball has been kicked. And preseason has given us an indication of who we might be based on what we have currently. There's no doubt that we need to bring in, more talent before the window closes. But just in case we don't and things don't go so well, I also wanted to just take a beat today and just try to focus on the positives. Our first game is on Friday against a newly promoted team. I just fear for the worst if we don't get a positive result in that game. It will be I think such a I don't know, crumbling start to the season before we've even really gotten stuck into stuff. So our show today is Wednesday Wisdom, and I asked Kev, who's not here today, to send 3 videos, give me his 3 wise statements for what he would want to say to the Arsenal nation. And then I gave you a little bit of homework too, but I want to start with Kev, and I want to get everyone's response to what he's saying and ask you if some of this stuff is even realistic. Here we go with our Wednesday Wisdom wise statement number 1.
Hi everyone. My first word of wisdom statement is the Arsenal do not have a divine right to be at the top. You know that. Everything that is achieved must be earned. Arsenal have to earn it. No shortcuts. Number 1.
I think this is a really good point, and it's probably my favorite of the 3 that Kev sent over, Tom, because I think, because we've experienced so much success, and no matter what age group you are, whether you're a baby boomer, a Generation X, or a millennial, Gen Z, or an alpha, you love Arsenal for many different reasons.
I don't even know. I don't know which one I am.
I think you're a millennial. I'm not going to ask how old you are on air.
I was 94, I was born, so whatever that is.
How old? I'm shit at maths.
26, so...
Oh my gosh, you might be Gen Z.
Wow.
I'm old enough to be your mama. And you know what? I'd be very proud of you if you were my son.
Well, my mum's not an Arsenal fan, so it might be preferable, to be fair.
Listen, things I don't often announce in public. My mum's a Stoke City fan. Can you believe that?
Wow. She's got
You know
like
why,
Ryan
though?
Shawcross posters on her wall.
No. It was Gordon Banks that did it back in the day. She had all the right reasons to be a Stoke fan back then.
Does she boo Aaron Ramsey? Is that what she did?
No, she doesn't do that. She knows she's not allowed. I mean, how did I end up with parents? My mum's a Stoke City fan and my dad's a Man United fan. How did that happen to me? My brother's a Tottenham fan.
Right.
I mean, I think we need therapy. Our family needs therapy. It's official.
The Arsenal fan does, always.
I do think this is a really important point that Kev brings up, because we live in such an instant gratification world, whether it's sports, life, success, money. It's really a pandemic in itself. What's your take on what Kev says in terms of that divine right? And when you see your team go invincible, when you see them win the double, when you see them win, 14 FA Cups or 3 or 4, it does hurt that much more.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think kind of the word expectation and Arsenal kind of go hand in hand. A lot of fans expect a lot more than maybe what the reality of the situation is. Sometimes I feel Arsenal don't have any right. No club has any right. Man City doesn't have any right this season to win the league. It's not. It's about competition. It's sport. It's what we live for, the unpredictable moments and the key kind of crunch times of the season and the turnarounds and the shocks and everything like that. And there is no divine right for anyone to win any game. Every team starts on the same amount of points, and you go into every single game with an even playing field, unless Mike Dean's Arsenal's referee. But besides that, it is absolutely spot on. And I would look at Arsenal this season as a club that have to accept that the whole Big Six scenario that we kind of talk about is purely down to obviously historical merit at times, even though it's slightly confusing. Spurs are then included, but it's also down to kind of the financial side of things, the fan base and the size of the fan bases. But Arsenal now have finished 8th in the last 2 seasons, and prior to that, we've been slipping for the last decade plus. And Arsenal fans do need to be a little bit more kind of tailored to the point where we can't compete financially with Chelsea and City and Manchester United, and we're not going to be able to compete with them on that level. But what we can and what we should expect really is for a club to be running the right way. And I think that's a thing that you should expect, but isn't necessarily being kind of followed through on properly right now.
Tom, what's your take on this? When people talk about City and PSG and their prowess to be able to just spend, and how fans are so confused about, oh, hold on, does FFP even exist? And do they think they have a divine right to win because they have money? There's a juxtaposition to that a little bit in terms of the haves and have-nots. And I think, scaling back our ambition as fans is also indicative of the owners that we have. Do you think there's this thing building a little bit like the European Super League about there's a divine right to buy a Messi or to go in for Kane and Grealish in the same window because they have money? So what's your take on that?
It's a thing about Arsenal is that we know that there is an ownership that's not investing. That's the bottom line for Arsenal. I mean, I was listening to, I saw something crop on my timeline about, I think it was Simon Jordan having a right go at PSG. I think he used I can't remember the term.
The word he used, he used something.
A really weird descriptive term. I can't remember what it was.
Chintzy. It was derogatory.
It was
sure.
a weird term to use. And I'm not his biggest fan anyway, so it doesn't. But look, at the end of the day, like when you look at a club like PSG, that's obviously we're led to kind of believe state-backed, and it's backed by some very rich, oil-rich kind of backers. Barcelona have previously been backed in a similar kind of state-funded way, and now the league has kind of screwed them over quite a bit because of the restrictions placed on them. And you look at those clubs, and it's almost like they're playing kind of FIFA career mode where they're buying whoever they basically want Crazy. At times. And Barcelona, it's ironic that people are desperate for kind of Arsenal to spend. Because if you were a Barcelona fan in the last kind of 4 years and you ignored the results, ignored kind of what they did on the pitch, you'd be buzzing with the fact they spent 100+ million on Dembele, 100+ million on Coutinho, 100+ million on Griezmann. Ignore the names for a second. If we were Arsenal fans and that's what Arsenal were doing, if you forget the implications of the finances, fans would be absolutely buzzing with Arsenal spending that amount of money. But it does go to show that kind of just raw spending does never guarantee success, and it's about the way in which a club is run. And I think if you look at Leicester and you look at Liverpool and you look at the way they've sold and the way they've recruited, that's a model. Now, when we look at Arsenal, and we look at Arsenal over kind of the last 5 years plus, even arguably the last 10 years plus, we haven't recruited well enough and we haven't sold well enough. And that's led us to the situation that we find ourselves in. So in the context of, again, going back to that word expectation and the divine right of Arsenal fans to expect greatness, I don't think anyone's got the divine right to expect us to win anything. But I go back to the point of, I think the fans have a right to expect their club of a stature of Arsenal to be run in a lot kind of a more efficient, sensible, financially astute way than it has been over the last 10 years.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And I kept this comment up here from Universal Greek. By the way, good evening, squaddies. Without Kev here, I lose my manners sometimes. He is the squadron leader. So good evening, everyone in chat. He says, we don't have the divine right to be at the top, but given my 2 season tickets cost over 2,000, I have a right to see a team that at least challenges for the major trophies. We buy something. I buy a TV from Samsung. You know, if I get a warranty, I have the right to get that fixed, right? I've bought my warranty. I've paid extra. Do you think buying a season ticket gives you the right to expect what you just said, really, in essence? You expect fans, you expect the team to at least give it a go, I think is what Universal Greek is saying, to touch on what you've said.
Yeah, absolutely. If the club wants to charge the most expensive ticket prices in the league and they're surprised when fans expect more than what we're showing, it wouldn't surprise me, first of all, but I think it does surprise them. And I mean, the ticket prices have always kind of been, it's something that's gone under the radar, I think, recently. I remember when I first started tuning into kind of podcasts, and the Burkout Wonderland was the first one, as you know, with Danny at the helm. And I remember the ticket prices was a huge part of that. And that was back in like 2014, 15, when I started first really getting into kind of podcasts and YouTube and stuff. So that for me was when ticket prices were at the kind of the crux of it all, because things were happy on the pitch. Like, we were in the chat. I say happy, it wasn't, you know what I mean, but we were in the Champions League. Yeah, we weren't out of the top 4, and so ticket prices were the worst of our concerns back then. How things have changed, and I think that ticket prices now are certainly gone under the radar. I think that ticket prices have risen in other clubs as well, like Spurs with a new stadium. Obviously, their ticket prices have gone up. And the spending of kind of Arsenal, and the fact we've not been in stadiums as well has kind of covered that up a bit as well. But yeah, the point is sound, that if you want to charge the most expensive ticket prices, then you should be providing a product which falls in line with the others. And when you look at City's ticket prices, it's cheap in comparison. So yeah. Okay, cool. So let's get to the second point here. Kev's second wise word statement.
Statement number 2. The Arsenal, our football club, need us. And they need our support. They really need our support. And let's put all the worries and the problems aside. Put it aside. They need our support. So let's show our support to the lads, starting v Brentford. Up the Arsenal.
So I think this is one of the things that fans have a real struggle with separating. It's supporting the team versus the owners that we have. And being supportive sometimes is very difficult when you see so many issues at the club. What's your take on what Kev said here? Do you think it's realistic that, I think some of our fans, and I think maybe half the fan base, will do this, but there's also a toxicity that we know exists. I see you having, going back and forth with fans and conversations, whether it's online, Tom. Is it possible that we could actually just support the team even if we're struggling? And what's your take on what Kev said?
The social aspect of Arsenal's fan base is... It's a strange topic, and it's a really interesting one to kind of discuss. And I obviously, in kind of the channel that I run, it's very different. Everyone runs their channels in their own way, and I've always come down the route of, like, I don't swear, or I delete comments immediately, or I block people straight away for just, like, if anyone calls so-and-so a horrible word, if you know what I mean, and just uses kind of expletives to describe players in a negative manner, I'll just block it, because I guess I'm trying to craft the community there that is like where opinions are just respected, and you can come along and have your say, and no one's going to attack you. They might disagree with you, but they do it in a respectful way. And I feel like we and I always say we when I talk about TGT, because it is a community that's kind of built up. But online, it's very different. On Twitter, it's very different. And to expect the fan base to come together in a context of the club is an unrealistic expectation. You can't, for me, expect a fan base to be harmonious. I remember when I was at school, the arguments used to be between rival fans of different clubs. But with the invention of Twitter and social media, that has shifted away. I barely ever get into online scraps, if you want to describe it as such, with Chelsea fans, with Spurs fans. I never ever get into kind of confrontations with, but I do on a regular basis get into debates and scraps with fellow Arsenal fans, because we are also passionate and love this club so much, and we believe our opinion is the right one. And when someone questions you on that, it is hard to not take that personally sometimes in a way. And I think because Arsenal is in such a volatile situation, that in itself is going to breed a volatile reaction, especially in the world of fan channels, of which we both own. And obviously that in itself can create a lot of drama during seasons, especially when there's public disagreements and live disagreements and stuff. And it's a really, as I'm kind of just feeding back from Kev said, I don't think you can ever expect a harmonious kind of family vibe overall. But what you can do is that at the end of the day, you can't control anyone else's thoughts. You can only control your own actions. And so you've got to be responsible for how you are with other people and the type of kind of person you want to be. And no one's perfect. And I'm certainly not. As you know yourself, we've got into scraps before about different topics. Yes. So it's a case of sometimes just taking a step back, trying to be a little bit more reflective, and be open to changing your mind is something that I always kind of promote. It's fine to change your mind. Some people will tell you it's not. Some people will call you a flip-flop, or that you're going back and forth or whatever. No, it's a good thing to change your mind. It's the only way that you can really ultimately avoid being wrong is by changing your mind, because you're changing your opinion to what you then believe to be the right thing based upon the evidence presented to you. So absolutely, it's that should be the promotion way of the fan base, is being open to change your opinion.
It's interesting that you said that, because I think Lee Judges mentioned it a few months ago. I don't know if it was on our show, but I know he's a good friend of both of our shows. And he goes, why do people freak out if you change your mind about something? You know, things happen so quickly in life today. We're a prisoner of the moment. We respond to what we see. And in the immediate, fans want us to comment on it, or key informers from, other networks or ex-players. And so it's very difficult to kind of not change your mind based on what you see. Now, you could be staunch on a few subjects, Tom, but it is okay to change your mind. I wanted to put this comment out from Zamir for you. New fans aren't used to a team that struggles, so they migrate over to City, Chelsea for that instant gratification of success. Now, you're in your late 20s. So you would have started with Wenger, right? The beginning of Wenger. So what you've known is pure success towards the end of Wenger's reign, even winning those FA Cups.
My childhood,
But then you went through, like the rest of us, the barren years. And that's why I say I don't care how old you are. If you love Arsenal Football Club and you're a fan, that's all that matters. But this idea of Manchester United fans, think of that generation, right? Since Sir Alex Ferguson has gone, that generation, all they knew was winning, 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 winning. Manchester City fans, my age, all they knew was we're losers, we're losers, we're losers. We had Sean Goater on this show a year ago, and he was a player that went down to Division 2, the old Division 2 with them before, they came back. Liverpool Football Club, what instant gratification were their fans getting in the league? 30 years without winning anything. And then the Champions League, of course, softened the blow together with their FA Cup. So there's peaks and troughs for a lot of different clubs. And I think sometimes, Tom, people mistake being a bad Premier League team with being a big club. And I think that's where the rubbers met the road a little bit with fans. A lot of fans think we're just a loser club. I don't think we're a loser club. I just think we're losers competing in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's a somber way of putting it. We are losers, right? that's where
Was that too much?
But no, it's a reality that a lot of fans kind of need at the moment. I think is kind of that, just being a bit more humble about what we are currently, and that, to be fair, that doesn't, and I think it's important to say that doesn't mean that you can't then say, if we lose to Brentford on Friday, be critical of that, because
Absolutely.
we should be going into that game with the money that we've spent already, and we've already spent. People talk about we haven't spent enough. We have already spent 75 million quid. This team is meant to be 75 million pounds better off than it was last season, and our manager is meant to be another year experienced, and all the players as well. So there is an expectation to do better than we did last year, and winning these games against the likes of Brentford, no disrespect to them, should be games that Arsenal target as W's. So I think that it's important to measure expectation. Like, I remember when we lost to Liverpool at the start of last season, and there was a bit of a meltdown after that game, despite losing. And I still thought we were in that game more than we'd ever kind of been at Anfield for a long time. And obviously we took the lead, and then Robertson scored. And was it Mane? I think that may have got the other one.
Yes.
But for me anyway, that was one of those games where I thought, okay, I can see a bit of progression here. We're not getting absolutely trounced at Anfield. We've taken the lead, and maybe if we'd have taken a couple of chances that we had, we could have got something else out of it. But I remember there being a huge meltdown about that game, and I was thinking, this is the Premier League champions away from home, and Arsenal have no God-given right to go to Anfield and take a victory. And if anything, I thought they showed in that game a lot more than we were really expecting, and yet there was still that meltdown online about decision making and stuff like that, missed chances. But it is about being a bit more measured in those moments. I think it's important to break performances down, look for the positives first, and then go for kind of the more analytical criticisms that we've got. But it's going to be a weird season this year, because I don't know kind of how the fan base is going to react after 2 8th place finishes, and it will depend on what other business gets done by the teams and us, of course, too.
Yeah, I think, Tom, it could, with fans back in the stadium, if our home form continues as it was last season, I just really hope things don't get too toxic and embarrassing, because I thought that the way we came together with the European Super League, the protests, we have Akil on the show tomorrow from the AST, and how he kind of brought people together. And we, as different communities with different channels on YouTube, have tried to bring people together. It was a moment where every Arsenal fan was really united. And at the end of the day, you just want your team to win. And when you're Arsenal Football Club, when you see a team like Man City, who kind of a little bit like the world we live in, there's new money versus old money, right? City, PSG, Chelsea, they're all new money. The Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, these are storied clubs, that have been run a certain way for a number of years. So I think, do you think jealousy comes into it? Are you jealous does jealousy come into it for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
I'm not afraid to admit that.
No, I'd love to be winning Premier Leagues like Man City. I'd be buzzing with it. So I am very jealous. And I think sometimes you see kind of the opinion, which I think I got a lot of flack last season sometimes for trying to, and I mean, we had a few debates about Arteta, of course, last season too. And I got a lot of criticism from a number of people about kind of trying to make sense of kind of what was happening in certain moments. And I think, on reflection, I definitely didn't have as much of an open mind as I needed to see more of the criticisms and the mistakes that were being made, because I was desperately trying to make sense of progression and seeing progression. And there was progression in certain areas, but overall we weren't improving. And I think I was a little bit blind to that at times. But I remember being kind of chastised for it. And I remember did a show, I think it was yesterday, with the guys over at the Arsenal Lounge. And someone in the comments, who I must have blocked because they must have been abusive in the chat, in one of my chat box, was like, "Oh, look, it's Tom, the Arteta apologist." And that's like 4 months after I said I thought he should have gone last season. And that's kind of the detachment, I think. And people just kind of associate faces with an agenda. And it's very difficult to kind of break that image of yourself associated with a badge of either Arteta in or Arteta out. I mean, Dan Potts will get it all the time. We know Dan Potts very well, and he will be like, people will assume that he always just wants Arteta to fail and stuff, which he doesn't.
No,
but he has a very critical view of Arteta, and he puts it across brilliantly at times. He really does, and it's certainly changed my mind about a couple of things. I think it's kind of we come back to kind of this fan channel thing, and the most vocal crowd, we have to admit, are on the whole, I think, of a younger disposition, and are more kind of associated with social media and going through school and having access to that at a very young age and seeing that very volatile. I mean, I look back at tweets that I sent when I was a kid, and I'm like, what were you talking about? Like, and because your mind is so malleable to impressions and to drama and to be kind of funny and to try and stand out by being a little bit controversial. And you look back on it now and you go, why were you tweeting that? Like, what were you doing? And so that's why I do have a bit of sympathy at times when you do get into kind of some debates. And I do turn around and just be like, we're going to agree to disagree here, because nothing is going to change this at all.
But the fact you're reflective about it, not many people
Absolutely.
are reflective about it. Like, you know, when you talk about Arteta and the fact that you kind of said just a few minutes ago that maybe, you know, you were seeing things a little bit differently. The fact that you can be that way is a really good trait to have. You know, I've always said I want him to succeed, because if he succeeds, Arsenal succeed, right? But that doesn't make him immune to criticism.
No.
At all. And it doesn't make players immune to criticism either. You know, unfortunately, you make a movie. I mean, you know, my career was in the film industry for however many years in entertainment, and I've worked with actors and who get a bad review from the New York Times or the Evening Standard or the LA Times and Variety, Hollywood Reporter, and they're like really despondent. And you know, I could sense that, because they're attacking their performance. Like, the critic is saying you were rubbish in that film, and this film is rubbish. And you've spent like 2 years of your life making that film, and you've put your heart and soul into it. And there's always going to be threads of that film or that performance that you find a positive in. And I think this similarly with Arsenal, it's like, you know, Arteta in the Europa League failed, I think, as a manager, but there were other games where he shone as a manager, and it's okay to have that point of difference, Tom.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I use kind of the analogy of when I was teaching, and like you'd have an observation where someone's going to come into your lesson and watch you, and obviously he's a more experienced teacher, and you plan this lesson, you think, wow, this lesson's great, like I'm going to smash this, and you go and you teach the lesson, and you think it's going well, and then you have the feedback afterwards, and there's a bit of praise, but then comes the criticism, and you're sitting there going, like, I spent so long on this lesson, like, and planning it out and stuff. And it is really hard to accept criticism. And I think it's really hard as well in the sense of this is for when you are, especially someone who's like, if say your opinion, like mine was last season, of really trying to see the best in Arteta and hoping for him to succeed. When you see someone legitimately tearing apart that person and criticizing that person rightly, it can be very difficult to get your head round and to accept and to not come back very kind of aggressively, and you know, you need to be a bit more measured. But yeah, it's a really tough kind of headspace to put yourself in, but it's great when you get there. That's the thing.
For sure. Can I ask you, just before I play Kev's last video, how many times do you delete or edit something before you set? Sometimes I'm going to be honest, I sit there, I mean, wear my heart on my sleeve here, I sit there and read and I type something, I'm like, I believe it.
That's good though, because people don't do that. People will just tweet what you just said, like, and they won't stop. So that's good.
Yeah. Do you stop and think sometimes, like, okay, because you are an influencer and you have a channel that's got, you know, 25,000 plus subscribers, and that comes with responsibility. And I hear you. I like when you said we have the odd F-bomb on the show. Kev doesn't like to swear. You know, we have less swearing now on our show, but a guest might throw one here and there. And but do you feel this sense of responsibility because you do have a platform for that? So do you think twice about stuff every now and again?
I mean, just briefly kind of on the swearing thing, part of that is I'm very honest about kind of the monetization side of my channel and stuff like that. And if you swear throughout your show, like the CPM of the channel is gonna go down. Like the channel is gonna make less. And when it's your job, and when it's your like part of your living, it is important to consider that. So I'm absolutely open and honest about that all the time. I'm not going to sit here and lie and be like, look, we don't swear because I don't swear ever in my entire life. That's a load of BS. As soon as I leave that show, I'm having a conversation and effort and blinded and stuff. But
swear on Magic Mike's show.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's where you're free to ruin his CPM. That's fine. But it's I'd have kind of I mean, very recent I did a tactical breakdown on Lautaro Martinez and I deleted it. I didn't delete. I privatized it so no one could watch it after about a day, because I had a couple of comments saying that I got a couple of stats wrong, and I went back and checked and I did, and there was mistakes in the video, and that bugs me because if anything, I want to put out content that's good and professional and correct. And if there wasn't, I wasn't just going to leave it up and to continue getting views off that video with mistakes in, because I want people to come to the channel, know that they're getting the right information so that they come back again knowing that they've come to the right place. So I took the video down. I haven't redone it because the links have kind of gone away with Martinez. But yeah, it was about taking down a video that had mistakes in, and that was important. But on Twitter, typing out a tweet, it can depend on the time of day, like late at night or early in the morning when you're a little bit more wired at times, I think, or especially after a long day at work. Sometimes you will say something you wouldn't necessarily say at like lunchtime after, a chill morning. So that's important. And I definitely have deleted stuff, and I think it's very normal to do. I always said that I feel like Twitter should have a 6-month expiry date on tweets. Like after 6 months they go. The worst thing they ever did was include that quote tweet button like that. People just bring up tweets you wrote from months and months, and you're like, I don't think like that anymore. That's not me. That's not representative of the current Tom right now. So
that's what's happening in the world, isn't it? Where you can unearth a tweet from 10, 15 years ago, and cancel culture will, have you cancelled, and that's the reality we live in. Okay, you're listening to the Highbury Squad. We have Tom Canton here. Gooner TalkTV, you guys know and love him. Been doing some great shows on the transfer news this summer. You can also find his fine work at Reach. He's doing some work in association with Football London, so be sure to do that. And remember the rules of the house, everybody. If you hate Tottenham, hit the like button. That's it. That's the rule. Here we go. Here's the last video from Super Kev. Let's see what his final wise word is. Here we go.
Number 3, wise words, wise statement is whatever happens, no panic, don't get too euphoric or anything. Let's just try and stay level, because we know if we start well, great. If we don't start well, that's not great. But let's try and stay level, because we know we need to improve as a football club. So there's no panic. Let's make sure we try and stay level, because I know how it works. We go up and down, and no, let's try and stay on an even keel, because we need to be on an even keel, Gooners. The Arsenal need us on an even keel, no matter what happens. So look after yourselves. Sorry I can't be with you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
So I kept Virginia's comment up because, and good evening, Virginia, talking to the wrong fan base, Kev. Yeah. I love his positivity, though. Kev's the type of person that feels like he can change the world, right? He's just got this aura and energy about him. Lone Star says, don't get too high, don't get too low. Johnny boy, don't panic. This is, people thanking KC. This is the key. It's so hard, isn't it? This is why I fear, like, it seems like the stars are aligned against us. We're playing on Friday the 13th. We're playing a newly promoted team. We're playing against a team where there are a couple players that a lot of Arsenal fans would have loved for us to maybe buy over the last, 18 months or so, Tom. Is it even possible, if we lose to Brentford or even draw, that we can keep that even keel? I don't think the too high thing is an issue. It's the too low thing for me.
I dream of too high. That'd be great.
Me too.
But yeah, I absolutely agree with every word Kev says, but it's not realistic. And And I just think that anything other than a win on Friday will start the meltdown. Arteta out will trend on Twitter. I have absolutely no doubt about that. Whether that's right or not is not the point. It's about, if you have an opinion that you think the manager should go, I don't know what the benefit of, say, tweeting Arteta out is. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird concept, because you love this club and you want them to go and win the next game. And that's why I find the abuse of players so weird. Like, if we lose and Saka will get racist abuse like he did after the Euro 2020 final, which is horrific, and not just racist abuse, but you'll get abuse of other types as well. And it's such a weird mindset, isn't it? You want these guys to go into the next game and turn things around. How do you expect them to do that if the reaction to a bad performance is to just hammer them into the ground even more than when they were when they lost? The same as with the manager. If it's not going well, it's like Arteta out trending, and he says he doesn't go on social media, but I'm sorry, I don't buy that he's not aware of the reaction, especially now fans are going to be back in the stadium.
Let's be honest, we all do, right, Tom? We're all looking to see what people are saying and doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I read all of the positive comments, and I'm very thankful for them when you get them on the channel. But I'd be lying if I said that a one negative comment didn't affect me more than 100 nice ones. And that's not to discredit or not be thankful for the nice ones. It's just human nature. It's just. There was a great, I'm going to use another teaching analogy now for you, but I remember observing a lesson where a teacher put up, like, and I've said this on my channel before, so some of the listeners might be aware of it. I was watching a lesson where the teacher put up 5 sums on the board, and the first sum was like 1 + 4, and he put 6. And the rest of the 4 sums on the board were correct. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. And it carried on with the teacher's lesson. Eventually, like, a hand went up in the room. And they were like, "Sir, you got the first one wrong." And so he turned around and said, "Hold on. So I did 5 things right, and you focused on the one thing that I did wrong. And you didn't praise me for those 5 things. It was that one thing that you focused in on." And that is very much kind of the situation. It's not, if you have a defeat, look for the positives where we might turn things around. It's, that was not good enough. You need to go, sack them now. And there is a time when you get to that and it's fine. But after the first game, it's a bit hyperbolic. So, yeah.
It's a great point, because I think that's how we are. And I can talk about this from a female perspective, right? We women, we have a terrible thing that we do. I think you do it less as you get older and you're more comfortable in your own skin, is that we pick on the flaws of our body and hone in on those instead of focusing on the positives or what makes us beautiful in our eyes, or the people that love us, right? And I think that's the way of the world a little bit, is, everyone wants the train wreck. Everyone wants to kind of focus on, just the negatives. And there are positives, which we're going to switch gears now, because I asked you, Tom, if you can find me 3 positives to talk about before the season starts, as we head into the Brentford game, based on what we know now and today, what would those 3 positives be? And I really am trying hard to just look on the bright side. I know it's not perfect. I know it's not great. I know we're not where we need to be. I know Arteta's under an insurmountable amount of pressure. I hope and pray that he kicks off and he has a great start to the season. I want Aubameyang to score goals. I want Tierney to stay injury-free. I want Thomas Partey back. I want, Martinelli to get a chance. There's all these things. So if I was to ask you what 3 positives are, hit me with your first one.
I think the first one would be Ben White coming in. I think that Arsenal desperately needed to add a kind of a ball-playing centre-back, and I like this way that we're moving towards this kind of English core and the homegrown core coming back and at a different level. So that, for me, was the kind of the first one that we invested there. So how do you feel about Ben White? Are you excited about him as a player coming in?
I really am. And I've talked to a lot of Leeds United fans. As you know, Bill from Football Prizes is a Leeds United season ticket holder. And I've spoken to him quite extensively about Ben White. And he waxes lyrical about him, that he would the same as when maybe John Stones first emerged at Everton, and Harry Maguire was this kind of, hotbed defender that a lot of teams wanted before he signed for Manchester United. And I feel like he could be Al Maguire, or he could be Al Stones. In fact, I would say that if he emerges into the team, he could be a future captain, along with Tierney, the two of them together. I don't care which one gets the armband. I just think they're the future of the Arsenal. And 50 million, Tom, is in the UK market. Like when they want 70 million for Maddison and City just agreed the release clause for Grealish at 100 million and Maguire was 85. I think it's a phenomenal deal. I think he's our marquee signing of the summer for me. Fans may not think that now, but he will become that.
Yeah, I mean, he for me was going to. I got asked earlier on Football London on our stream about who I thought would be our player of the season, and I said White. So I think he will be transformative for us in the pitch. Second one. I thought about kind of picking, really easy ones, and then I was moving away from it, going, "Oh, it's boring." But I really want to talk more about Lokonga.
I love him. Oh, good! I'm so happy you picked Lokonga. Yeah, awesome.
He's great. Like, he's a surprise package. And I was talking to Sasha Tavalieri, who's a Belgian journalist who reported a lot of the news during the story. And obviously, I come to know him quite well during the stories from getting on the channel and stuff. And he raves about him. Like, I send him a 5-word text, and he'll send me a 2-minute voice note, just like raving about the goal, because he is that good. And he looks like we were worried about not bringing in enough centre mids, and we still may not bring in any more centre mids. But I do feel better about the central midfield, knowing that we've got Lokonga, and he just seems to be ready to take that step up. I mean, if El Neni starts over him on Friday, I will tweet Arteta out. But
Tom, seriously, if he starts El Neni and Xhaka doesn't start Lokonga, I'm not saying red flags, and I'm not saying we're going to have a meltdown.
Red flag. It's an absolute red flag. Okay. Yeah, that's for me. It would be stubborn. It would be not really putting enough faith in the player to pick El Neni over him, and I think that's a bad to not reward someone for the performances they've put in and especially when El Neni has been bad. Like, there's no shadow of a doubt El Neni's been bad in pre-season, and Lokonga's been anything but. It would make zero sense to play El Neni ahead of Lokonga, and it would be a big criticism towards Arteta if he does. I think it would lack kind of front for him not to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And here's the thing. You're not captain of Anderlecht at 21 years old, made captain by Vincent Kompany, who's one of the best captains we've seen in the modern era of the Premier League. And coming into it, he's been one of the most promising and uplifting visions in our preseason games. And I know there were a lot of people ahead of that saying, "Oh, he's not ready." And some people were even saying, "Oh, we might send him on loan." I'm like, you don't spend 17 million on a midfielder, who's played for Vincent Kompany and Anderlecht and been captain, to send him out on loan. He should start. And if he doesn't, this is where I don't blame Arsenal fans for having a pop at Arteta, as long as it's done in a respectful way, of course. So yeah, I'm very excited about him. I think he could end up being, Tom, the end of the season, one of those signings where a lot of clubs are like, damn, we missed out on that one. All right, what's your third one? We'll get you out on this one.
My third one was, and it ties quite nicely in with what we've been talking about today, the fact that it's just a new season. That for me, and I think it's a clean slate, not just for the club, but I think for every fan. With what we've been talking about, like, if you felt like you've been too reactionary, if you feel like you've flipped too much, if you've abused people, and I say it's a case of there's still a way back for you. That's what I would say. Like, you can change how you are this season, and you can, watch some more positive things, some more analytical things, some level-headed criticalness, and you can move away maybe from kind of a reactionary, angry, abusive side that maybe you were guilty of previously, and you want to look back and now and reflect and say, no, I'm not going to get involved with that this season. I'm going to get involved with some really level-headed thinking, and yeah. So I think it's an opportunity for people this season to think of it as not just for the team, but for themselves and how they're going to be as a fan online and how they're going to be with other people. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying, well, hold on, so if we spent 27 million on a defender and sent him out on loan and he's not kicked the ball for us.
Not wrong.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's
Yeah.
not, is it? And we'll be talking to Chris Carpenter on our French football show next week about all of that stuff, you guys. So what's your hope for the game on Friday, Tom? We'll get you out on... See, I say I'm going to get you out on this one and then I add an extra one. But prediction, I know you're not into predictions too much, but prediction and what your take is for Friday before we even know how our team's going to look. I'm going to ask you the big question as well. But firstly, Brentford v Arsenal. What's your expectation?
The expectation is a really tough game. Our expectation is their left side with Henry and Kanyos are going to be very tricky for us to deal with. Obviously, Ivan Toney, you can't give him an inch of space in the box, then he's going to be very difficult to deal with for our back line, but it's going to be a big test for Ben White, assuming he starts. I'm going to go... I've said, despite all that, I have been exceptionally optimistic in all of my shows and said we're going to win 3-0. So that there is that. But that's just my optimistic side, and I'm going to stick with it. We're going to win 3-0. So there you go.
I love it. Would you start... How long before you bench Aubameyang if he hasn't scored?
I wouldn't start him on Friday. So
who would you start up front?
I'd start Lacazette up top.
And Pepe, Saka.
Pepe, Saka, Smith Rowe at 10. Yeah, Lukonga, Xhaka, Tierney, White, Marie, Chambers, and Leno. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Are you sold on Pablo Murray?
I'm sold on him as a backup. I'm not sold on him as a starter. But whilst Gabriel is out, he's okay for that role. I mean, if we want to, we could put Rob Holding there, but he doesn't convince me any more than Marie, really. So I'm going
to put you on the hot seat now. How do you think our season ends? Where do you think we end up?
I think we'll get Europa League. I think top four is fanciful with how mad Liverpool, Chelsea, United, and City are. I think it would be a ridiculous achievement of Arteta to get that top four spot if he is the man that does it. Of course, if he's not gone throughout the season. But yeah, my prediction is a top 6 finish. But which is progression, arguably, but yeah, it's
from 8,
unrealistic. I think top 4, so it's crazy.
Okay, and they've said they'll kill me if I don't ask you about Ramsdale in 30 seconds.
I would take him, but nowhere near that figure. Like that's a crazy amount of money.
Alarming.
Yeah, he's a decent keeper. He really genuinely is a decent keeper. I don't think it's smart spending that amount of money on it when we have so many other positions that we need to upgrade in. I just think it's weird to spend that amount of money on backup. But
I think there are other goalkeepers available too, Tom. I mean, that we could go in for that would be a lot less. And I saw Danny from a Bergkamp Wonderland put in his stats. Did you see that tweet?
Yes, I did.
Relegated at Bournemouth, relegated at Sheffield United. Is it Sheffield United twice he got relegated?
No, he got relegated with
League
Bournemouth, and then he got relegated with Sheffield United.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look,
he was player of the season both of those years. To be fair, it's worth pointing that
Tom always coming up with the silver lining. I absolutely love it. Well, look, there's 300 of you in live chat. If you have not hit that like button because you do hate Tottenham, then I'll have Kev deal with you tomorrow. And that's all I have to say about that. Tom, let everyone know where they can find you, unless they've been living under a rock. Let these folks know where they can find you. You can find us at the Gooner TalkTV on Twitter, or just the Gooner Talk on YouTube. And you can check out what we're getting on with Football London and Reach at my personal account at Tom Canton Media. So amazing. Well, look, keep up the great work. I know you'll be coming up on our show here and there in the coming season. We always appreciate your wise words, and thanks for joining us for Wednesday Wisdom. Thanks to Super Kev for sending in the videos. Some really good points and questions there too. The show returns tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with Akil Vias from the AST. We'll be getting all the lowdown on what's happening. And I have no idea about this card that everyone's freaking out about. We're going to talk a little bit about that too, as well as some racism initiatives and a whole lot more in terms of what's happening with what the AST are involved in. In the meantime, squaddies, Tom? Yes.